Hello everyone, it is the Axle Shifter here, and today this is going to be a video talking about the many different Pixar's Cars video games that have been released throughout the years. Now, this is probably going to be focusing on almost every single Cars game that has been released. That includes the mobile games and the console releases. So, yeah, I just want to talk about this video and talk about the many different video games of my favorite franchise of all time, that being, well, Cars. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get started with the ultimate games of the century. We are, of course, first starting off with the original Pixar's Cars game, that being simply titled Cars. Well, Cars 1, the video game. This was before Cars 2, of course, since, it hasn't released yet, since it was near 2006 at this point. But hey, this game was released on many different platforms, including the PlayStation, Xbox, and many other platforms down the line in the future. So this game mostly focuses on the cars from the original movie, as well as some new characters as well. This mainly focuses on Lightning completing certain different tasks and racing, and focusing on different friends completing other different tasks of their own, diving more into their personalities and such. This also includes the open world of Radiator Springs more. I really do like this game. I think I did play it a while back, but I don't really remember, but this is mainly from the game itself. So yeah, I really like how this game really delves into Radiator Springs as an open world. We don't really see that nowadays since, it's mainly just focused on linear racing, but still, this game really did focus on the open universe of Cars itself, mostly Radiator Springs, of course. But we did go to the occasional Piston Cup track, which was also pretty awesome as well. We did get to see Chick Hicks, but unfortunately no Trip Weathers or the King in the game, unfortunately. So yeah, we don't really get... I think we do play as him, but, he's not really that relevant to the story of the game as a whole. So yeah, so overall, as a first game, this is pretty well done. The graphics still... while they do look outdated, of course, by modern video game standards, for the time it does look pretty cool. It really fits the style of the Cars universe really well. So yeah, for a first game in the franchise, this was really good. Next up is Cars Mater National, which only released pretty much almost after the first Cars game. Basically, the story of this game is that Lightning meets a few new characters, and then meets them, then races them around, and eventually takes the photo of all the several characters that appear throughout the game, including the Radiator Springs Towns gang, and pretty much took them all in one giant picture. Honestly, this game isn't exactly as good, I would say, as the rest of the other games, considering that, there's not really much of... there is a story, but it's just nowhere near as good. We don't really get to learn about the new characters here at all much. They just only appear and then really race around and stuff, and that's it. You only get a few of them, like how one of them has a girlfriend back in Germany, but that's really about it, honestly. That's about it. Now, the racing itself is still pretty fun, but yeah, it's just nowhere near as good as the first game. And now we have the final Cars game in this kind of Cars 1-ish era, that being Cars Race-O-Rama, which is widely considered to be the best out of these three games, and I would still consider the first game to be the best in my opinion, but still, this game is no scrub at all. This game is absolutely really good. For starters, the opening cutscene opens up really well and perfectly showcases Lightning McQueen at his absolute prime, since, in Cars 3 that's not the case, and onwards, he is no longer his prime, but he's still racing. But still, this also introduces plenty of new characters like Stinger, Candace, and pretty much that other fucking blue truck guy. I don't remember his name, but still, he's kind of forgettable in my opinion. But yeah, moving on. This game also introduces Chick Hicks as our main antagonist finally, since Chick as an antagonist doesn't really do much in the other games, but in here, he actually poses kind of a threat to the Doc Hudson school, with Chick Hicks opening up his own school for racing, which mostly involves cheating his way out of actually just winning and stuff. So yeah, overall, this game is honestly pretty good, and the animations for the rest of the cars and all of them are also really well done, despite it looking kind of outdated once again by modern game standards. So yeah, I recommend buying this game if you really can and have the price for it. I mean, yeah. And now that that little era is over, now it's time we talk about one of the bigger ones, Cars 2, the video game. Now, Cars 2, the video game was actually developed by another studio, that being Avalanche Studios. Pretty much a different developer than THQ, which was the main developer for the last three main games. But for this game, this was completely a developer. And another thing that was different in this game is that there's no more open world. It's completely linear now. Which, I mean, I'm pretty okay with, since after three separate open world games that were released during that old era, the formula was kind of getting a little bit tired at this point. We needed something new, so this game really does fill that void, really. And honestly, despite the fact that Cars 2 as a whole wasn't really well received, which, I mean, I disagree with, I still love Cars 2. But yeah, I also really like Cars 2, the video game, despite it not really being connected to Cars 2 itself, besides the characters and the locations. I mean, Cars 2, the video game, doesn't really have much of a story to begin with here at all. I mean, the opening cutscene starts off with Finn McMissile reprising his role, of course, pretty much fighting off the Lemons while Mater helps him, but it's eventually revealed that it's all a simulation in the end. But then you just complete all these random challenges, races, and missions, which don't really connect to each other. I mean, they are also cutscenes as well, but they mostly boil down to, oh, well, there's another race starting, we had to go, or, oh, fuck, Professor Z, he stole from me again. And that's really about it. And the game just ends like that, with Professor V getting defeated, and that's about it. I mean, that's the only thing really connecting, well, Cars 2 and the movie and the game itself. Not the actual story, just the characters and locations from it. I mean, that's one of the really downsides of the game, is that there's no story here at all. Just think about the potential that could have actually had, but no, you just get this instead. But as for the actual gameplay itself, it's pretty good. It's a full-blown kart racer instead of just the standard racing that this franchise is really known for. And while the standard racing is also really good and pretty much what made the franchise so popular in the first place, the kart racer stuff and the full-on weapons is also really fun. They also require a lot of skill to use, and they can also be used in very different ways. For example, if you're going forwards and if you got a weapon like the missiles, for example, you could just do a 180, turn backwards, and then shoot the missile back at the opponent when they were least expecting it. I mean, it's fucking awesome. It's genius, dude. So simple, but it made things really fun. And as for the soundtrack itself, I mean, the rest of the Cars game soundtrack is also really decent and also really good, but this game's soundtrack fucking goddamn bombs. I mean, you're listening to this game's soundtrack on this video right now, and I would say it's pretty absolutely great. I mean, they did not need to go this hard in the game as they did, but they still did up doing it anyways, and I will commend them so hard for it. I mean, thank you so much, developers. But yeah, and overall, while this game did have no story, the rest of the game's qualities really do make up for it, and it didn't really deserve a lot of the hate, I would say, this game really deserved. I mean, it's a shape-up to the Cars video game formula, but it's a good shake-up. And now we're looking into the lesser-known Cars games. This one being Cars 2 Appmates, once again based off Cars 2. Appmates was a different game. Instead of it being console-based or PC, standard stuff, Cars 2 Appmates is a game where you basically buy these mini versions of the characters from Cars 2 and then place them on this game app and play them as the real car or not. So yeah, if you place the car on the app, you can go on these adventures around Radiator Springs, complete different races and other different tasks. Honestly, this game looks really cool, and honestly, I would, not recommend it, since I don't know, you could probably not play it ever again, since, it's really old and it came out in like fucking 2011. And you could even do these wings type things in the game and fly, which is pretty cool. But unfortunately, you can't really play it anymore, at least to my knowledge anyways. So yeah, I recommend this one. It's really cool. Okay, why do I keep recommending it? I can't play it. It's just a good game. Now we have another pretty big one, even though it's just a mobile game. Cars Fast as Lightning, the same name that inspired my series of the same name, the diecast one, where, Lightning Manor go on adventures and stuff. I'm sure you all know that by now, which, yeah. But still, Cars Fast as Lightning was a mobile game developed by Gameloft based off the Cars series, and it focused on several different characters throughout the franchise, though being from the first movie and 2, including some extra stuff and gear from Cars tunes, pretty much making their own tracks and racing on them. This game was pretty popular back in its heyday, but unfortunately it's now just completely ended and shut down in 2017 or something. 2015, okay, yeah, it just ended a long time ago, a few years ago at this point now, and it's honestly pretty sad because I genuinely really enjoyed this game back when it was in its prime. I really did want to unlock Lightning McQueen. I only really got stuck with, I don't know, maybe Flo or maybe Finn McMissile, but really that's about it. Oh, actually, scratch that, I was only really stuck with Raoul before the game was shut down, really. So yeah, unfortunately, that was still really sad to see that this game ended because it had so much potential. They could have added some Cars 3 characters in there, but no, it's gone. And especially the models and the animations too, they were so godly. But unfortunately, that's just a memory now. I mean, there are still videos of people playing the game on YouTube, and it still kind of feels like you're playing it, I guess. Cars Daredevil Garage. Now, I've already talked about this game a while ago. It's now one of my most popular videos, so be sure to check out the game in the description. No, not the game it's done, just the video, me talking about it in the description. Okay, what the hell? But still, anyways, I'm pretty sure we all know about Daredevil Garage at this point, at least when you watched my video. It was a game about collecting cars diecast and race them around in these, like, Hot Wheels style different tracks and then just winning. That was kind of it. I mean, unlike other toys come to life games like Disney Infinity or, I don't know, Lego Dimensions or Skylanders or anything else, this game was kind of boring, honestly. It was just consisted of cars diecast in the game itself, that's it. Also, there were a bunch of scanning issues in the game as well, because if you scanned as one character, you would automatically get another character instead, and got pretty annoying. Eventually, all the problems led to the game's demise, and eventually it got to the point where you can no longer play it anymore. It's removed from all kinds of app stores, and yeah, you just can't play it. It really sucks because this game was really missed potential. It could have been so much more, but yeah, just it now. And now we have one of the last games, and I'm only going to be talking about one more game. This is Cars 3 Driven to Win. And oh boy, this is probably one of the more underwhelming games. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not awful by any means. I mean, stunningly, this game looks really nice, but it's essentially a reskin of Cars 2, the video game, just with Cars 3 slapped onto it, since, of course, that was the most recent thing going on with the franchise at the time, Cars 3. And as the game itself, I mean, it's basically Cars 2, the game, but with different characters and different locations. And there's even some returning locations from Cars 2, the game, that being Italy, Japan, and pretty much everything else in Radiator Springs. So, yeah, that's kind of annoying there. And there's even the airport, and also, yeah, that's it, really. But overall, I mean, this game's soundtrack is kind of generic, honestly. It's not really as slappy as the previous game that came before, well, mainly Cars 2, the video game, but yeah, I mean, this game is just meh to me now. Now it's time we talk about the last game, World of Cars Online, the original MMO game that suddenly disappeared because, as all MMO games, the servers just die and the game becomes no more. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things to do in this game. For example, you could create your own OC car. Yeah, and you could pretty much name it and design it however you wanted. And you could also go around to Radiator Springs, do different tasks, race around. And there was even a zombie event going on during Halloween, which was really cool. You even got to see a map of Radiator Springs as it loaded. But once again, the game is no more, and there hasn't been an attempt at a revival servers anytime soon, so that's pretty awful. And that was the video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah, see you later. I just wanted to talk about these different Cars games within the Cars franchise. And, yeah, later.